Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for having me, and thank you for organizing, all of the organizers, such a wonderful and important event. As was just mentioned, I had recently had a documentary released about my life story, and some of you can probably anticipate how nerve-wracking something like that might be. So just before we had the world premiere of The Relentless One in Palm Springs, California, I decided that I needed to do something physically to expand myself mentally to prepare for this level of somewhat international vulnerability. So March 2022, I found myself on a trek in Peru. And for some of you who might know the Inca Trail, I did the Salkente trek, and the Salkente trek is the highest and most difficult. So as my son and I landed and started to, prepare and acclimatize to the heights in Peru and Cusco, my son started to Google different information. He said, Mom, this says that for most people, if you're at 15,000 feet in the air, most people would be unconscious. Like, this is why planes are adjusting your oxygen levels. And I kind of laughed. I said, Ethan, that can't be true, because of course the mountain was 15,000 feet. Well, we did summit the mountain. It was extremely hard. It was beautiful. And we thought we were in the clear. We went down several thousand meters descending after we had gotten to the peak. And it was freezing rain. It was freezing. It had been raining the whole way up. And there was some sleet. And so you can imagine we were basically frozen. And we were extremely happy to start to descend down the mountain on these rocks and cobbles. And it was quite a challenge. So the next day when we woke up and we had arrived in the jungle, we thought the coast would be clear. We're in the jungle now. We're going to enjoy life. We're going to, everything's green and lush and beautiful. And if you've ever done hiking or trekking in a high altitude space, you know that as soon as you start to descend, you get your energy back and you feel like not $1 million, you feel like $1 billion. When you start to come down from that peak, you feel like you could hike 2 more mountains because the effects of the altitude kind of just drop off of you. And it's a beautiful experience. So the next day we had full energy, we're ready to go, and we start to go into the jungle. Now, we had a Sherpa with us, Elvis, and Elvis is very educated on the Inca ways. He taught us a lot about the traditional traditions and beliefs of the Inca. So it was very, very exciting for us to be in the jungle and learning more and be out of this difficult trek up to the peak. So we start to walk, we're setting off on our way, and we're on paths that are right on the edge of the mountain because the jungle is not fully, we're not in the Amazon River and we're no longer in the Andes up in the mountains. We're in the middle, so to speak. So you're on these paths that are, couple people wide on the side of the mountain going through. Out of nowhere, Elvis says to us, we need to pass this mountain now. There's been a landslide. We either pass the mountain now or we don't pass it at all. Now, my son is 19. We felt like we were on a grand adventure and thought, fantastic, we're safe, right? Now, I want to pause for a minute and say, in North America, we have this idea of inherent safety, right? When we're on a tour or we're doing a trek, when we have a guide. I need to really emphasize that in Peru, this is not the same. This is not the same thing. So we decided we would continue on. We got to a point where we're, foot over boulders, right on the edge of a waterfall that if you fall down, it's hundreds of feet down. And we thought this was great fun. Nothing is too difficult yet. We get to a portion of the mountain about 5, maybe 8 feet. That's just slid down again. And they had created these paths that go up and over. So it's, decent. It's like maybe 3 foot hiking boots wide. So my son and I up and over, and we think, okay, we've done it. They said there was a landslide, no big deal. Continue trekking. Finally, about 1 kilometer or 2 up the path, we come around the corner and we see it. And it is a massive, fresh landslide. So it's about 40 feet of the mountain that have completely fallen. Now, I want to explain this isn't 2 days before. This is hours before we're there in the morning. And our guide looks at us and he says, we have to cross this. There's no going back. The road is washed out behind us. Cars can't get through. We can't go back the way we came from. It'll take us hours and hours to reroute. We need to cross. And I'm looking at this 40 feet and there is no path. The mountain men, as they call them, those who have lived in the highlands, the Sherpas, they walk over with their feet to literally create a path. So I want you to picture, if you have a hiking boot, which I do, I want you to picture how wide your hiking boot is. And I want to explain to you that this path they've created to cross a fresh landslide that is completely straight down pitch on the mountain is not even as wide as my hiking boot. I look at this path, I look at my Sherpa, I look at Elvis, and I'm like, I can't do it. I start to shake. My chest is beating out through my shirt, and I'm freezing. And for those of us who have a lot of training around mindset and anchoring ourselves, I happen to have a lot. I have more than 15 certifications. I'm well trained in mindset and performance. So I thought I can anchor myself. I can get solid. But I kept looking at my son, 19, and I thought, I don't want to watch my son die. I don't want to watch him go down that mountain. I don't want him to watch me go down that mountain. So I finally got to the point where I said, okay, Ethan, I want you to go first. So eventually it was Ethan's turn. He had a little bit of trouble, which scared me because he's a super strong, capable man who's many, many feet taller than me. And he got across with a little bit of difficulty. I looked at Elvis. I still couldn't ground myself. I couldn't calm down. Like, I can't do it. I can't pass this. And he looked at me. He's like, I'm going to go with you. I'm going to help you. And I was like, I don't think I can. So Elvis helped me, held my hand so tight. I had a ring on my ring finger that was actually the emblem of Virgin Mary and mother energy. And he was holding my hand so hard that the ring was digging into my fingers. And we were halfway across the landslide, and he looked at me and he said, Kathleen, Pachamama has us. And Pachamama in Peru is Mother Nature. He said, she takes care of all things, and she's going to take care of you. It's going to be okay. Every time I stepped forward on that path that was not as wide as my hiking boot, my boot slipped. Every single time. And I was terrified. I was frozen. There was nothing in me that wanted to cross that path. And everything in me wanted to go back. We finally got through to the other side, literally with Elvis dragging me across. And there was still huge boulders and a huge escarpment that we had to climb down. And I looked at him and I said, I'm going to cry now. And he said, sure? Yeah, I'm going to cry. Just give me a minute. We got through the other side, and I definitely did cry. And it was interesting for me because everything in me, my intuition told me not to cross. Everything in me said, this is unsafe. You're not going to get to the other side. You're not going to make it. Things are not okay. And I think about how many times in life that I've had to do something big. I've had to take an educated risk. I've had to invest in myself to get myself out of a hard situation. And my intuition didn't say go for it. My intuition said retreat, go back to safety. Don't put yourself at risk. And some of the times when it's most important for us to go forward are the times where our body can lie to us because it's trying so hard to protect us in that fear state. And I learned something very, very important that day in Peru. Now, what I learned is that sometimes when we don't feel confident to move forward, we don't feel confident to pass that landslide or to leave a difficult relationship or to take on a new business venture or to figure things out with kids on our own, right? Or to be in a very difficult area where we don't have safety right now. Sometimes when we don't feel confident to move forward on our own, it's because we're not meant to. We're not meant to. We're community-based. We need mentors and support people and people who are going to help us cross in our most difficult moments. And I remembered something really important to me, that when we help others cross difficult times, during times in our past that were really hard for us, times that a lot of us walked alone, we change our past. We rewrite our history. And not only do we rewrite our history by walking with somebody else when we walked alone, we change the future with it. Now, many weeks after that hike, my energy healer, my guide at home, said to me, Kathleen, where was your faith on that mountain? What happened? Like, you're a woman of such confidence, of such faith. How could this pass have shooken you so much? You hiked across the Camino de Santiago, 840 kilometers on your own in 2020 across Spain, and you weren't ever fearful. You told me you never were. But I think nothing happens by accident. And some of us are here to Sherpa people across. And sometimes in life, we're being Sherpa'd across. We're always both. And I needed to remember that in order to be able to Sherpa people through, I also need to let others Sherpa me through and help me get to a place of guidance. And it's a humbling memory for me. It's a humbling reminder for me. So I want to end on that note and just say it one more time. If you come to a hard point in your life and you just can't move forward and fear and intuition are telling you just to stay, even though you know your only hope for something better is to cross, it's because you're not meant to cross alone. You're meant to have mentors. You're meant to have guides. You're meant to have somebody help you. And if you can help somebody else cross during difficult times when you walked alone, you are rewriting your past. And together as a community, we're changing the future. Thank you.